Welcome to Speed Reads, the next conversation. Master difficult conversations using proven communication tools. It's a moment that's all too familiar. One second you're having a normal conversation, and the next, things take a sudden turn. Voices rise, emotions escalate, and the original topic quickly slips away, replaced by something far more charged and unpredictable. When the dust finally settles, damage has been done, and you're left wondering, how did we end up here? What most people miss is that no argument is inevitable. There are always possibilities to diffuse tensions and pull back from the brink, all while keeping your dignity intact. This summary explores how to do just that, drawing insight from an unexpected source, the communication strategies of elite trial lawyers. Trained to navigate high-stakes, emotionally intense situations with precision, these professionals operate in environments where every word counts. Fortunately, the same techniques they rely on to remain composed and guide conversations under pressure can be easily applied to everyday life, equipping you with the right tools to face conflict with clarity, confidence, and control. So, if you're ready, let's start by mastering the art of responding, rather than reacting, in the conversations that matter most. Behind every argument is a hidden struggle. The moment Bobby LaPrey walked into the deposition room, Fisher, the author, knew this wouldn't be a routine witness testimony. The man's physical presence was overwhelming. Fisher barely came up to Bobby's chest, even though he was over 6 feet tall himself. Bobby had been called in as a witness to a bar fight, and Fisher was representing an injured bystander. As Fisher started down the usual line of questions about when and where Bobby had been on the night of the incident, he noticed the witness growing increasingly agitated. His hands started twitching, and Fisher could hear his breathing getting louder. Then, all of a sudden, Bobby erupted in anger. Pointing at Fisher, he accused lawyers of being the main reason behind the country's problems. Fisher was shocked. You probably know these sorts of moments, when a conversation suddenly goes cold. Out of nowhere, you find yourself thrust headfirst into a conflict you didn't see coming. It can happen in a work meeting, at home with your family, or even over text. Most of us tend to react in one of two ways: fight back or shut down. But what Fisher did in the deposition room was neither of these options. Instead of reacting, he decided to listen and seek to understand what was really going on. In this case, this meant asking Bobby what he was struggling through at the moment. The room froze. No one had expected this question. It turned out that Bobby's mother was in failing health, and he was finding it difficult to cope. What's more is that he'd received threats in the mail about her house from, you guessed it, lawyers. The pieces clicked together. It wasn't Fisher or the deposition that Bobby was furious about. He was simply drowning in helplessness, and lawyers had become the face of his struggle. Fisher did something then that no legal textbook would recommend. He paused the deposition, connected Bobby with an elder law attorney who could help with his mother's situation, and told him the simplest, most powerful truth. You're a good son. The man who could have literally thrown Fisher across the room now had tears streaming down his face. By the end, they were hugging. It's these sorts of things that we so often miss in conflicts. That fight about doing the dishes, the email from your colleague about your tone. Like Bobby's angry outburst, these arguments are usually just the tip of the iceberg. Think of them as clumsy attempts to say, "I'm hurting," but the real, much bigger problem lurks beneath the surface. So, the next time someone snaps at you, try bypassing the tip of the iceberg entirely. Instead, try asking, "What's really weighing on you?" Doing so might help you discover the stress they've been under, or the anxieties they couldn't put into words. This is the magic that can happen in the silence after you ask. That's how Fisher got through to Bobby, and it's something you can take with you into your next conflict. But getting to that place of calm first requires you to grapple with your body's powerful automatic responses. Let's look at this more closely. The 10-second reset. Meet your amygdala, the brain's tiny, ancient alarm system that's always scanning for trouble. It's the heart of our fight-or-flight instinct that helped our ancestors survive the elements for millions of years. While brilliant for escaping actual danger, its reaction during modern verbal conflicts can sometimes feel a bit overkill. This is because the amygdala can be easily set off by anything that feels like an attack. When triggered, it proceeds to flood the body with adrenaline, causes your heart to start racing, and muscles begin to tense. All of these combined makes it rather unlikely that a rational response will follow. Instead, emotions take over. Maybe a defensive comment slips out, or you find yourself raising your voice. At some point, when the perceived threat decreases, the amygdala starts to cool down. Perhaps you both walk away, or an apology appears on the horizon. But by this point, the damage has probably been done, and the more intense the argument, the longer it usually takes for the ignition to cool. So, now that you understand the underlying physiology, you're probably wondering what can be done to avoid engaging the amygdala in the first place. How do high-stakes lawyers like the author deal with such triggers on a daily basis without resorting to conflict at every turn? This is where the power of the conversational breath comes into play. By putting this into practice, you'll learn to control your body to control the conversation and prevent the amygdala from being set off in the first place. Think about it like this. Instead of uttering that first word in response to a moment of tension, reply with a breath. A breath that consists of inhaling for 3 seconds through the nose. And then when you think your lungs are full, take another sharp inhale to top it off. Once your lungs are at absolute maximum capacity, exhale slowly and steadily through the mouth, ideally for around 6 seconds. Just as the amygdala sets off a biological series of events, so too does the conversational breath. It's been shown to decrease heart rate and stress levels. And it probably comes as no surprise that it's used on a daily basis by lawyers and other professionals operating in environments where maintaining composure is of utmost importance. But if you really want to get the most out of the conversational breath, you'll need to pair it with another tool, the quick scan. After you begin your inhale, briefly close your eyes, almost like a long blink, and mentally scan your body for signs of physical tension. Where is it that you feel the most pressure? Your shoulders? Maybe your jaw? The idea is that when you exhale, you consciously release the tension in that area. At the same time, come up with a word that sums up the emotion you're feeling that very second, something like pressured, frustrated, or maybe even defensive. Put together the breath and scan clock in at about 10 seconds, and it's these seconds that have the potential to interrupt the amygdala's ignition. With your fight-or-flight system repressed, you can proceed to come up with a considered response to whatever triggered you in the first place. But what you choose to say after that pause can either solidify the newfound calm or, if handled poorly, reignite the conflict. Let's find out how to make sure it's the former. Small talks, big impact. It seems obvious to say that words are powerful. But what's less obvious is that it's not just the words we say out loud. What we tell ourselves in the safety of our heads is just as important. This is particularly the case with the specific thoughts we focus on in those decisive moments when the amygdala starts to rear its head. The funny thing is that Fisher discovered the effectiveness of such self-talk almost by accident. Years earlier, he found himself driving home after a particularly difficult day in court. He'd been struggling while litigating in one of his first big trials, and he simply couldn't help but go over all the verbal stumbles he'd made. Over and over again, he repeated the phrases he wished he'd found when he needed them the most. You be Jefferson. Wait for the right pitch. Let the facts tell the truth. He just couldn't shake them, as if his mind was playing a song on an infinite loop. He woke up the next morning with the phrases still echoing in his head. So he took his yellow legal pad and wrote them down at the top of the page. This was the moment he came up with what he now calls his small talks. By writing the phrases down, they metamorphized into mental anchors, anchors he could use to ground himself in the future when times got tough. By summoning them next time in court, he'd be able to take that moment to right the wrongs of his earlier performance. What are some of the mindsets you wished you could have embodied recently? That's the first step in figuring out how to word your small talk. Say, for example, you want to avoid arguing with your partner next time an issue comes up. The small talk here might be along the lines of seek to understand. Or maybe you want to avoid sounding unsure of yourself during that next work presentation. Perhaps something like voice it would do the trick and help you project the confidence you have within yourself. Then, once you've identified your context, try to find phrases that are short and snappy. Starting off with an action verb is particularly helpful, such as feel, don't fixate, or speak slow. And last but not least, make sure it's personally resonant to you. After all, you're the only one who's meant to hear it. For example, one of Fisher's clients used Tell 'em Doris, channeling something her grandfather used to say to her grandmother. By taking it as one of her small talks, she was able to instantly connect with that same assertive energy whenever she felt hesitant in the office. All of this circles back to how you handle those moments when you feel overwhelmed or under fire. Your small talks act as your own silent superpower, one that helps you get a grip on your mindset before the situation runs away with you. And achieving that inner stability directly enables you to thoughtfully manage the actual flow of the conversation, which is what we'll look at next. The power of silence. So far, you've practiced managing your internal state with the conversational breath, the body scan, and small talks. But controlling the conversation also means controlling its pace. Take a quick moment to think back to the last time you felt stressed. You probably found yourself talking more quickly, right? Well, that's your amygdala in action again. It's increasing your heart rate and causing thoughts to run wild. What's more is that this process can lead to words spilling out before you've had time to think them through. This is where the power of silence comes into play. Instead of rushing to fill empty spaces with throwaway comments, choosing silence grants you command over the conversation's pace and allows space for thoughtful responses over gut reaction. And while your gut might tell you that pausing surely makes you seem hesitant, quite the opposite is true. Silence is all about helping you project confidence. Now, before you get carried away, it's important to note, not all pauses are created equally. On the shorter side, pauses ranging from 1 to 4 seconds act almost like reading glasses for your conversation. They help add emphasis to specific words. For example, if you pause for a few seconds before answering a question, this makes your response seem more deliberate and impactful. But longer pauses of up to 10 seconds are where the magic really happens. Instead of adding emphasis, they hold up a mirror that allows a speaker to reflect on the words they've just spoken. Say, for example, someone has just uttered an offensive or false statement. Instead of retorting, try simply saying nothing at all for 10 seconds. It's within this gap that the person opposite you comes face to face with their own words as they linger in the air. They might start to squirm, or even backpedal what they just said along the lines of, "Oh, I didn't really mean it like that." And all of this can happen before you've even uttered a word in response. It should come as no surprise that lawyers use this technique all the time. Fisher recounts a deposition where he was questioning a truck driver. The man was accused of texting while driving right before a crash, but he vehemently denied the charges. What the driver didn't know was that Fisher already had the man's phone records and knew he had, in fact, been texting before the fateful moment. So, after the man confidently stated he never texted while driving, Fisher proceeded to say nothing. In the ensuing 8 seconds, the driver shifted uncomfortably in his chair and his eyes began to dart around the room. Then he broke the silence himself, qualifying his never by admitting that, well, he maybe sometimes did, but honestly can't remember in this instance. Then another pause, this one clocking in at an excruciating 10 seconds. It turns out that dishonest people cannot handle the weight of silence, and the man proceeded to buckle, admitting that he might have been texting after all. No yelling or accusations required, just the power of holding up one's words to the mirror of silence. And there you have it. By becoming comfortable adding such long silences to your conversation arsenal, you're making sure the words you eventually choose to say land with much more weight. But how do you make sure the words themselves are as sharp as possible? In our final section, we'll discover how to do just that. Embrace the one-word edit. The words we use on a regular basis help define who we are and what people think of us. But sometimes, what we choose not to say is even more important. It's this process of omission that can really lead to you strengthening your assertive voice, as you slowly whittle away the filler that can obscure what you're really trying to say. This process is at the heart of what Fisher calls the one-word edit. It's remarkable what deleting a single word from a sentence can do for your message. Some common offenders? How about the word just? It comes up all the time in work emails, usually along the lines of, "I just wanted to check in." But is it really necessary? Here's the same sentence without, "I wanted to check in." Sounds quite a bit more direct and assured, no? The same can be said for other hesitant phrases. Watch what happens when "I'm kind of wondering if" becomes "I'll ask." Short and sweet, straight to the point. Once you tune your ear to these sorts of edits, you'll be astounded how much filler you can shave off and start projecting confidence with your language. Let's take a look at another area where edits really shine. Unnecessary apologies. These fillers are everywhere, from "sorry to bother you" or "sorry I'm late." Sure, genuine apologies are important when you really need to express sympathy. But using it habitually to express needs or for simply being human can really diminish how others view your self-worth. So Fisher recommends always swapping out empty apologies for gratitude whenever you can. How much nicer does "thanks for your patience" sound instead of "sorry I'm late"? The same goes for "I appreciate your help" instead of "sorry to bother you." Yes, these may seem like small adjustments, but don't underestimate how much they can completely reshape the dynamics of your interactions. The principles at the heart of the one-word edit can be taken even further, especially when it comes to those pesky filler sounds that so many of us rely on. If you record yourself speaking for 1 minute, how many instances of like, or, come up? So many of us are guilty of this linguistic faux pas, padding our language with needless filler. Luckily, the fix here is as simple as it is effective. We've already gone over silence in the last section, but you can apply its power here too. It can be the briefest of moments, just enough to replace where you would usually hesitate with an Its intentionality is what makes it shine and allows the words that come after to really hit home. By approaching your everyday communication with greater care and intention, you'll begin to gain more control over your conversations, especially during arguments, where every word carries the potential to hurt. So, move forward with the confidence that sometimes saying less can achieve much more. Final summary. In this summary to the next conversation by Jefferson Fisher, you've explored how handling difficult conversations requires both a deeper understanding of human behavior and a stronger command of your own communication. We began by looking at how recognizing the emotion behind someone's anger can uncover the deeper struggles driving their reaction. From there, you picked up a range of practical tools like the conversational breath, the quick scan, and how to craft your own small talks to help you stay grounded in tense moments. You also learned how to use silence with intention, shorter pauses to emphasize a point, and longer ones to invite reflection. And finally, we covered how stripping unnecessary words from your speech can help you speak more clearly and project the confidence you already possess. Taken together, these techniques empower you to approach difficult conversations with greater composure, clarity, and purpose in any scenario. Okay, that's it for this summary. We hope you enjoyed it. If you can, please take the time to subscribe. We always appreciate your feedback. See you in the next one. Thanks for listening to Speed Reads.